You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. And that's how you come in on the ones and the twos. I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that is the right way to say that necessarily at all, but let's just say that's how we're starting this program. Welcome to Me and Paranormal You. This is a third year bonus. This is Ryan Singer, back from the road. The goofball run was a success. We did 2 weeks on the road. Wow, we experienced almost everything you can experience on one road trip, or on the road in one road trip in 2 weeks. It was remarkable in so many ways. I want to... did that sound like I didn't mean that? It was remarkable in so many ways. Anyway, let me start off by... There's a couple orders of business we have to take care of here. One of them is all of the people who have found this show, found me through the Strange Road podcast. Thank you for finding me. I did the Strange Road. The Strange Road, by the way, it live streams every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mikey and Bubs and the boys. I mean, check out the show. It's a wonderful show. I'll be doing it again come 2024. Mikey and Bubs are going to be on this show soon after the new year. Love those guys. Love what they're doing at the Strange Road. I did a interview on there not that long ago, within the last month or so, I think probably. And soon after the episode aired, I've mentioned this on the previous 30-year bonus, the person who really blasted me open into the paranormal, like in an extensive way, as opposed to just believing in things are possible, actually witnessing them, the woman I witnessed shapeshift, who previously had not responded to any of my contact for, I think probably, I don't know, we fell out of contact maybe 5 years ago. After the last time, I think the last time I contacted her was over 5 years ago and didn't hear back. Her life had other developments and things going on, and she's living her life. You know, not everybody stays in touch forever. That's just part of relationships and things. Well, cut to December 4th. I am the recipient of a message asking me to take down our interview. Not asking me to stop talking about it or, you know, that kind of thing. I've talked about it extensively. I mean, I've been on the Bert Kreischer's podcast, for goodness sake, talking about it, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, Sam Tripoli's Tinfoil Hat. I've been on, podcasts that have, huge listener bases talking about this. And I think it was 2016 or 2017, whenever the interview went up on here on this show. Anyway, it's her voice. I didn't alter the voice. I didn't do any of that stuff. It's almost a two-hour interview, and she asked me to take it down for reasons I don't really need to get into, I suppose. It's her business. It's not even really my business. It wasn't that specific, to be quite honest with you, and it didn't need to be. And we've talked about this already. And so I took it down. Well, shortly after I took it down, I think it was within a few days or so, the boys over at Strange Road put a TikTok clip together just promoting the episode that I was on, right, and previously. And for whatever reason, we don't know how the algorithm works and things like that, but for whatever reason, this clip of me talking about that experience, it was on maybe a 2-minute clip, started going bonkers. It just started going bonkers. And I checked in on it at one point because I was alerted that it was, catching fire. And I saw that there was like 400 comments. And I'm like, I'm not going to subject myself. I mean, I'd like to think I'm 100% past caring what anyone thinks about my experiences and whether or not I'm telling the truth or if I'm crazy or whatever else, right? But do any of us ever truly transcend all of that altogether? even if we do, I don't need to read hundreds of comments from strangers either calling me a liar or calling me crazy. That's just not, or whatever else they want to say, or making jokes about, or making sexual jokes, or things like that even, right? I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that in my space. I don't need that in my bubble. So I typically do not get into or engage in the internet comment game. Now, they're not all like that. If you go to my special on YouTube, The Supernatural, you'll see that, there's a ton of comments over there. And, an overwhelming majority of those comments are beautiful messages. And I love that. And I appreciate that. And it's great. The overwhelming majority. Not all of them. There's some on there that, if you didn't know any better, you'd think that they might be truly unhappy people. Well, I guess you do know better, so you know that there's something in their life that's missing, or I don't know, they're hurting in some way to where they need to express that by trying to hurt other people. I don't really pay attention to that specifically when it comes to comedy. I've been doing comedy for 22 years, and I'm not going to trust. I'm not going to listen to some stranger's opinion about what comedy is when, supposedly you could say that I'm an expert in comedy, and I in fact would say that. That's just life experience and a devotion to a thing. It being immersed in a thing so completely and totally that you know that thing, and you know it damn well. It's a part of you. It's not about being better or smarter than someone else. It's just that you are a part of that thing now. Now, I'm not a part of many things, and nor would I try to critique the people that are a part of those things. Nonetheless, I had to reconsider that clip on the Strange Road, because here's the problem: as the universe works and as the world of the paranormal works, I mentioned in that interview. Yeah, I interview her. Go check it out. Because I wanted people to hear that interview, because I truly believe it to be a fascinating interview. If you listen to the interview, I thank you. And I'm glad you got a chance to listen to it before I took it down. I mean, that interview is never going back up. And I mean, unless I got a message from her saying, hey, put it back up, that is literally the only way that interview would ever go back up again. So, and I've lost the original file, by the way. I think I've talked about this on here. I literally have every episode of this podcast, over 700. I have every single one of them on multiple hard drives, because I'm nutty like that. I always worry about things going away, so I make backups of backups. In most cases, I don't have that anymore. It's gone. I had it on a thumb drive. The unedited version of that talk I had on a thumb drive, because I didn't want it to be anywhere else. I didn't want people to be able to hack into my computer. Not that people are going to hack into my computer looking for the unedited version of that interview, right? But just to be, as safe as I could with the privacy of another person, the person I've interviewed out of all the 700 plus episodes, that's the privacy of a person that is paramount to me. Not, there's a few other people who haven't used their, more than a few other people who don't want their real name used and things like that. And I get it. And their privacy is also very, very important to me. But she started it all for me. So obviously there's a special place in my privacy heart for her. So I only kept one version of it on a thumb drive. That thumb drive was long gone. I have no idea who found it on the street. And if they decided to listen to that, boy, oh boy, bonkers city for them, huh? Anyway, I have no idea where that thumb drive has gone. It's, who knows? I sit and I ponder and I speculate, and I just can't come up with any plausible, even fantasy about what may have occurred or where it may have landed. Nonetheless, if you love conspiracy theories, I guess this is a great one. This TikTok clip starts going bonkers, right? So I check in, and it's got, 100,000 views and like 300, 400 comments. And I checked in real quick on the comments, responded to maybe one or two people, and then I was like, okay, that's it. I don't need to get back in there. I think it was Mikey or Bubs messaged me again later saying, "Oh wow, man, that thing's really going bonkers still." So I go check in just to see the view number, and I'm like, "Oh my god, okay, it's at 200,000, and now there's 600 comments." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't need to read those, but okay, I'm glad that the clip's going viral for them. I want their show to get more and more listeners. It's a great show. I mean, it's really well made, and it's a great show." And then I'm having a conversation with someone about, specifically about, the experience, the original experience, the shape-shifting experience. And then it occurs to me, I'm like, oh, you know what? I should, I'll go back and I'll read that email. I go back and I read that email, and it occurred to me, I was like, okay, because I start getting, side note, I start getting a lot of action on my TikTok. Right. I start getting, new followers. I mean, the good news is I guess I can go live now because I got over 1,000 followers, which isn't very many, I suppose, when you consider there's people with millions of followers on TikTok. Nonetheless, 1,000 followers, I think, is the threshold to be able to go live. It doesn't matter. But I start getting hit up on all this TikTok action, and I'm not overwhelmed by it, but I'm just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. This is still happening. And then at the same time, one of my other stand-up clips, for some reason, was getting passed around simultaneously. So it was a little weird. It was kind of, I was getting a lot of notifications, or I turned those off. But anyway, every time I would go into TikTok, there would just be like a 70 notification, 80, 100 notifications. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? So, and I notice through the help of, I think it was Bubs and Mikey, that, these people on TikTok can be relentless. And when they catch the scent of something, they're like, hound dogs or like, police dogs searching for a cadaver. And it's, it turns into this, who is she? How can we find her? Where is she? Is this her? Was it someone else that was on here? And I will say this, people have asked me this question multiple times, and I will tell you that I only did one interview with her. I'm not trying to cover up anything here either. This is why I said, like, if you like conspiracy type stuff. She was only on my podcast one time ever, and it was the interview that I took down. We didn't do other interviews under a fake name or any of that stuff. I'll swear on my love of all things comedy and paranormal that's the truth. So if you're listening to this because you found me through that show and you're wondering what happened at the interview and you think that she might be someone else I interviewed, I'm telling you that's just not the case. I would have pulled that episode down too, because you would be able to tell because her voice was the same. Nonetheless, there's 700 episodes to go through, and if you're just new to this, I doubt you'd have the time to go through all 700. And if, kudos to you if you have such time and dedication to a cause. But, yeah, so I start, I'm talking on there. You should go listen to the interview. You can go back, because when people listen to that interview, here's the, to me, the only shame in the whole thing is, or the only downside to this whole thing is, when you listen to that interview, I think you honestly can hear two people that are somewhat reasonable. Dare I say I am reasonable, calling myself reasonable here. Dare I say you have two seemingly reasonable people who are well aware of the reality around them and are, all things considered, pretty damn grounded about the whole thing, having a conversation about witnessing one of them shapeshift on two different occasions. Now, one of the most grounded, reasonable conversations you could hear about that, I would argue, probably. I mean, you don't hear many conversations about that, I guess, in general. So, 1 out of 4 total in the world. I don't know, because Billy Corgan doesn't really talk. We got to get Billy Corgan on this show. And, just because I also think that I may have a lead on who the person was that he saw shapeshift, although I think it was different. I think it was, anyway, if you listen to this program, you remember a few years ago, I had this, investigation, this wild goose chase that I was on. So I get it. I get, and I understand wanting to be on a wild goose chase and find out who the shapeshifter was and all that. I've been there. I've done that myself in other situations. And this whole podcast has been about trying to find other people who can do that and trying to understand from them, or trying to help them understand, or finding other people who have witnessed such things. And I've been reached out to by people who, in somewhat cryptic ways will be like, it happens more than you realize, or, hey, I've got a story for you. And, hey, this sounds familiar, things like that. I'd love to talk to those people, and I'd love to talk to them on the show. In fact, I wanted initially 2023 to be Shapeshifter Summer. If you listen to the show and remember, you can remember me saying that. Maybe 2024 will be Shapeshifter Summer. Nonetheless, the viral nature of TikTok and people, and then on Instagram, the Reels started kind of picking up steam, and so I reread the email many times, and realized due to the nature and the tone and the seriousness of the email that it was time. I needed the boys to pull it down. I didn't need this catching into a serious wildfire situation to try to contain it while we could. It was actually their idea. Do you want us to pull the clip down? Blah, blah, blah. And after, a couple days of thought, I think it was a couple days, maybe it was just a day or something, I decided, yeah, let's pull the plug on it. And I'm sure there's many people very upset with me, and maybe, maybe they got pissed off by that, but that's just the nature of things. And, when someone asks you to do something, you do it for them, especially when they've done you the service and the favor of being so vulnerable in such a public way. And, and I'm sorry if you just found the podcast now. I apologize to you because that interview was online for nearly 7 years, I believe. I believe you had, roughly 2,000 days you could have listened to that interview in its entirety, and unfortunately it's gone now. And so I apologize. I really wish you could have heard it. I really do, because I think it's a fascinating look into someone's unexplainable life and her vulnerability and her courage and just the beauty that she has within her that she shares is remarkable. And who knows, maybe someday, I never thought that interview would happen in the first place, and it ended up happening. I thought it was an impossibility. So who knows? I will not say that it's impossible that ever goes back up on the internet, but it seems likely that it won't happen. So, yeah, so I apologize if you found that. It's not a grand conspiracy for me to talk about this interview that exists on a different podcast, somehow make a clip go viral on someone else's TikTok, and then pull the interview down because it never really existed, maybe, but it did. I can't orchestrate such a series of events, even if I really wanted to. I couldn't pull something like that off. Anyway, so yeah, my apologies for those who may be listening or maybe have found this looking for the Shapeshifter interview. I don't know what else to tell you. I had to pull it down. She asked me to, and I did it immediately. And then the TikTok viral clip of me talking about it started leading to an overwhelming sensation that certain people just were never going to drop it until they found out who she was. So we got rid of that. I didn't have them take down the talk, by the way. I'm still on that whole episode of their thing, telling the story. So it's just, there's something different about the viral nature of a short clip and the people engaging. That seemed like we had to pull the plug on that, so we did. The interview was still there. Their episode is still all systems go. So, but if you're listening to me because you found me there, you probably already know that. But if it's because of TikTok only, then you probably didn't know that. So let's take a quick break. We've got a couple more things on the Mind's to-do list here for the 30-year bonus as we come up on the holiday season in 2023. So patrons, thank you so much for being here. You can, for $3 a month, have every episode commercial free. So I recommend doing that. Especially if you hate commercials like me. So $3 a month gets you all commercial free. You can do more a month, by the way, and you'll get t-shirts and other things possibly. So anyway, I love you. Thanks for being there. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. So, okay, I spent way too long explaining that about the TikTok nature. I mean, I guess I've never been part of a clip that went viral that big that fast. It has nothing to do with my stand-up comedy. So, I mean, that was although, my previous appearances on like the Birdcast or Tinfoil Hat did make, my social medias blow up with a lot of paranormal, shape-shifting specific questions. So it's not like the first time the rodeo came to town. Anyway, and I will be as open with people, with strangers on the internet into a microphone, or with close friends of mine. I will be as open about my experiences as humanly possible. And if you've ever seen me do stand-up comedy, I don't keep much behind closed doors there either. So, but when it comes to other people's stories, I'm not the author. I'm not in charge of that. So I don't make the big decisions when it comes to share or not to share. I think you get it. I think you understand that because we're all reasonable people. So, and I appreciate that. Also, I want to say that this is, I don't know, I guess we don't talk about death on here all that much, considering, ghosts and spirits and the afterlife are such a big part. I do talk about death a lot, actually, now that I think about it. I just had to cut myself off there. Anyway, lost a friend while we were on tour, and, unexpectedly and tragically, it was a single-person bike accident. It was an e-bike. The hilarious, the talented, the beautiful, the amazing Kenny Deforrest. If you've never seen Kenny's stand-up, or if you've never listened to Kenny Deforrest's stand-up, I can't recommend it enough. God damn, what a beautiful, beautiful man. And we lost Kenny on the second half of the trip, and, we had a few more. We canceled one show, and then we had a couple nights off, and we did our best to pull ourselves together, and then we finished the tour. We had about 3 shows after that, and my buddy Gilbert went home, and understandably so. And Gilbert was my buddy Gilbert Lowand, who you heard on you heard him on the last 30-year bonus. You also heard him on the previous episode, 2 episodes ago. Experience where I interview him in a hotel room on the road. Was very, very close with Kenny. Dave Stone also very, very close with Kenny. And Jeff Tate and I were good friends with Kenny. And God damn, it hurt. And it sucks. And I'm thankful that I was surrounded by friends while we were out there. I mean, that was the thing. The one blessing of the whole thing for me was that I wasn't in a hotel room by myself when the news broke. And I had friends. I had people I loved around me, and we cried together. We laughed together. A lot of hugging and a lot of "God damn it," ing, and a lot of "why the fuck," ing. A lot of "it's not fair," ing. That kind of stuff. But I will say this. If we get lucky, if we're lucky in this life, we get to meet people and we get to become friends with people like Kenny. And, I've said for a long time, and, I truly believe it, that the meaning of life is to give other people's lives meaning. And that doesn't mean, you support them. It doesn't mean that you take care of them or they rely on you or anything like that, or you're their boss or anything like that. If you're lucky enough, you can live a life like Kenny, and you can make other people's lives worth living more, if that makes sense. People's lives, my life, the lives of everyone who knew Kenny, life was bigger, life was grander, life was more full, and there was something to look forward to because you knew you could see Kenny, and you knew you'd see Kenny, and he gave other people's lives meaning. That's what he did. And if we're lucky, we can do that. And if we're really lucky, we can do it for everybody we meet. Kenny literally did that for every single person he met. If we try hard enough, we might be able to, even if we fall short of such a lofty goal, we've still done pretty damn good. And that's worth trying, I suppose. I don't suppose, I know. And so if I'm lucky, I'll get to do the same thing. And oh boy, it's dampens the holiday spirit in some degree, but and loss is part of life and sucks. And the thing about comedy is, I don't know why, it just, and I'm sure everybody feels this, but it's the same way in the paranormal. Between the paranormal and the comedy world, I feel like just when I'm no longer thinking about my friend's death every day, somebody else dies. You know what I mean? Like, just when you stop thinking about it all the time, where it's like the thing that's on your mind the most, or, it's so prominent in thought. As soon as it starts to like move back and you integrate the loss, which is a healthy thing to do, to integrate loss into our lives so we can move forward. It just seems like every time I do that now, somebody else gets gone. And it's frustrating. It's aggravating. And most of all, it's just fucking sad. You just don't want to keep losing people. But such is life. Let's take a quick break. Okay, I'm back. That break was for me. That break was not for ads. That just break was for me. Why are we afraid of crying in front of other people? I even hesitate to cry in front of my therapist at times, and then I'll have this moment where I'm like, wait, this is what I'm paying for, right? So I can so I could just cry, like I can cry out loud. I can cry, on display, sort of, or in front of another person. So, yeah, I don't need this podcast to be, I don't need everybody to be president of the Sad Boy Club when they're listening to this, the Sad Boy Milkshake Club. I don't need everybody to be the newly elected president and listen to a paranormal podcast. But the interesting thing about the paranormal is, we deal a lot in death, and we deal a lot about, what happens after death. And, but when something is so personal, and when we lose someone close to us, that's not necessarily what we're thinking about. We're not thinking about the details of what it means to be dead and how that functions. We're thinking about the memories. We're thinking about the living parts of that person that are in our memories and will be probably forever. And most definitely will be there forever. And we cherish those ghosts. We cherish those ghosts of a friendship that we've had and that we've been lucky enough to have. It is oftentimes a story of, the day of the funeral, or very soon after a loved one's death, that they'll show up in the person's dreams, or they'll see them in the waking life, an apparition, full body apparition at times, or there's music. There's something that's so prominent. It's such a strong synchronicity that we know it's a hello from the other side. I hope if you've lost people in your life that you've been able to get those small gifts. And those gifts can come from people that we had contentious relationships with, and they can also come from people that we've had amazing relationships with. That is one of the fascinating parts of being connected to another person in this waking and this living life, is that a connection maybe is a connection, regardless of the nature of that connection. I mean, to some degree, I think, right? If you have like a total enemy, that's not something you're looking for. Now that person, after they die, might be trying their damnedest to contact you and make amends for all the wrongs that they have done in the waking life. So who knows? But that's not necessarily something something that someone in the waking life is looking for, or even wanting. Like, the image that comes to my mind is someone is maybe someone is convicted of murder and they're put to death by execution of some kind, and maybe they never truly, even though I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know. I don't like watch a lot of things about murder and death on television or movies, but I mean, other than what's just part of entertainment. But I'm talking about like true crime docs and things like that. It seems like, at least it's presented in this way, that a lot of the people who are being sentenced to death do ask for forgiveness from the family and the friends before in the moments before their death, or they show remorse for what they have done, because then they now know they are going to where they put that other person, which is the great unknown, which is the great after form. Now, let's say they didn't show remorse or ask for forgiveness. I suppose their ghost, their spirit might, depending on the situation, who knows? Like I said, I don't know how it works over there on the other side, but their spirit might be seeking to communicate with those left behind from who feel such pain from their actions. So the family and the friends that they didn't apologize to before they were put to death, maybe their spirit reaches out and tries to do such a thing. I don't know. It would be interesting to try to figure that out, though, and know if there's any documented cases of the I'm sorry ghost. If you're listening to this and you have any knowledge of a remorseful ghost, or the begging for mercy ghost, the pleading for forgiveness spirit, I'd love to know. So you can just message me. You message me on Instagram, or just find me out there on the internet, and let me know about that. That would be fascinating to know if there's any real famous case of a spirit that is constantly trying to get forgiveness for what they did as a human being. Like their life being a human they were scarier as a human being than they were as a ghost in death. That seems to be at least for most people, that would seem to be the flipped. That would be kind of flipping the whole thing on its head, right? Most people are more scared of the idea of a ghost just kind of showing up. But I suppose there are more than a few people who have lived a life that was scarier when they were here. Now, the worst case scenario is they're like a really bad person who, like a serial killer or something, and then their ghost is just like, time to pick up where we left off, but this time I don't have to worry about walls. That's terrifying, actually, and I don't even want to think about that. So, but yeah, okay, so those were two things I wanted to talk about. Pulling the episode down again, and I also wanted to mention the fact that this year's been difficult for so many people, and none more so than those deeply, deeply close to a loved one that they've lost this year. And my heart goes out to you, and I send you my love, because I know lots of us have lost people. All of us, in fact, have lost people. And that's the rub, man. That's the part about being alive that sometimes sucks, is that you got to see the people who die, and you got to see people die. And sooner or later, we will, all of us, be the person who dies. And I guess it's just like, can we just keep trying to do our best? I mean, you don't even have to do your best. You know what I mean? That's not what I ask of myself. I just ask that I keep trying to do my best. And there's days where I don't. There's days where I fail miserably. Then there's other days where I just have great days, Like I did some self-care when I got back from this trip. Something I haven't done in over a decade. I gave myself a Christmas present, and a friend of mine who's a licensed massage therapist, I was like, you know what? Ticklish be damned. I need some self-care. And I feel amazing physically after having a massage. I just don't know why I don't do this. I've done like 2 in my entire life. And it's just like, why have I not done this more? After being in a car, traveling from town to town for over 2 weeks, why would I not do this for my body? So give yourself some self-care. It's something you deserve. It's something you, not only do you deserve it, you need it. And it's high time you get it. So do that for yourself. I want that for you. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can do self-care. That's just one of them. But I also want to talk about what's coming up this week. I'll be talking to. I have 2 great guests that are coming out in the next 2 weeks. I'm revisiting my conversation with Dr. Roger Nelson. All things being equal, that there's no technical difficulties, and et cetera, et cetera. That I think that talk will be going up on Thursday. And then I'll be talking with, I'm excited to be talking with a new person, someone I've never spoken to before, Jeff Tarrant. And, he's the author of Becoming Psychic. And it's going to be a really great chat as well. Jeff is a psychologist, and it's going to be a really fun chat. And Dr. Roger Nelson, of course, spoken to previously about the Global Consciousness Project. I really want to get into Dr. Nelson about idealism, and as opposed to materialism, and where the Global Consciousness Project is now. They've kind of launched into phase 2.0 of GCP. I'm calling it for shorthand. I think they use that phrase. And then we'll. So it's going to be an incredible couple weeks as we wrap up 2023, and I'm looking forward to that. And I look forward to bringing you even more incredible conversations and chats in 2024. We are going to be celebrating the 10-year anniversary at the end of January. I believe it's on January 31st, and then along with that, there'll be some exciting announcements. Is Me and Paranormal You expanding? Well, it just might be. And there'll be more on that on January, on the 10-year anniversary. We're tentatively planning to have, kind of some of this launch, or at least the announcements on that launch, along with the 10-year anniversary. 10 years is long enough. Let's finally, let's do something else with the... I know it's only been a minute. It's only been 10 years, but maybe we should do something else with this show too. Maybe we should expand a little. So there you go. The world of the paranormal is exciting, and the news is breaking, and it seemingly is nonstop. And Dr. Stephen Greer has been kind of all over the place doing chats and doing podcasts. I'm going to see if I can get Dr. Greer on this show. Should be doable. We'll manifest it. We'll make it happen. We'll talk to Dr. Greer on here about CE5 and just the future of the human race and our interaction and, our place in the intergalactic neighborhood and what that means. There's so much going on. I went and saw Greg Feynman. You heard my chat last weekend. There's updates on Mutilation Ranch in that last episode, so I recommend going and checking it out. I'm still working on that documentary. Lots of good stuff, with Ed Brown, Dan Lindholm, and myself going out there to go see Greg and Mama Sue. But as the new year comes to a close, or as the old year comes to a close, people are always like, okay, what were you grateful for? What's your lists? What's your top 10 thises and top 10 thatses? That's what they say, right? Top 10 thises and top 10 thatses. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for being along for the ride. And, like I said, maybe 10 more years. Maybe we'll get 10 more years out of this podcast. Who knows what we're going to do? And I actually started this thing like 2 years after I wanted to start it. So we should be going on like the 12-year anniversary. But hey, what are you going to do? You're going to sit here and be filled with regret about stuff? But I will tell you this. If you are a podcast listener and you wonder, okay, someday Ryan will also die. And that's just true. I'm not trying to be dark or macabre here. I will also die someday. And I do have all intentions to haunt the absolute shit out of as many people as possible. Not in a scary way, but in a fun way. I want it to be fun. So I will be haunting or showing up or coming through in any way I can, if I can. So back in the day, there was a group of people, and they were I think the original founding members, or some of the original founding members of the ASPR or the PRS, the Parapsychological Research Society. And you have the ARPS, which, or the APRS, and then you have the PR. Anyway, we're talking about parapsychologists, those who are interested in studying parapsychology. And there's tales of different people, some well-known and others like well-known to where it might be surprising. Like, oh, that person did that. I'm going to be, I'll be writing lists out of exactly what I'll be doing. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm like hiding something here. I have no intention of dying anytime soon. So I'll have to make copies of these because I won't remember what I write, because I have full intention of living at least another 50 years. So there's no way I'm going to remember what I wrote down when I was 47, when I'm 97, right? Oh, like, give me my envelopes. I have to see how I forgot how I'm supposed to haunt people. Like, I don't want to be that guy trying to remember, like, oh, I can't remember what I said I would, how I would haunt Janet. I don't remember how I said I would haunt Andre. Please bring me those letters so I can get it right. But maybe they don't have to be so specific and different. Maybe it can be just some very specific things that I can write down. Anyway, I will be doing that, and I will be setting that intention. I've already kind of set that intention. I've been doing jokes about this in my act, which is kind of a way I set intentions for things as well. I guess as of now, I've just decided that. So I'm going to be, I don't know the best way to haunt somebody who only knows you through podcasting as opposed to like stand up or just being friends in real life. I don't know the best way to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is, because, let's be honest, 50 years from now, who knows how we consume media? It might not be through headphones anymore or through our ears. It'll probably just be through our minds. So how does one adapt to that? And how do I haunt you in a very specific way but it's also enjoyable. It's not scary. It's just like hey, how you doing? Death isn't final. This is your old buddy Ryan, just letting you know that. So take a deep breath and relax, because even though it seems like life can be so much, it's not all there is. That kind of haunting. Does that make sense? I want it to be kind of a reassurance of, hey, everything's going to be okay. This isn't the end all be all to everything in this moment that you're living right now. Because existence is so much more vast and expansive than you could ever possibly imagine in your consciousness. So it's going to be that kind of haunting. So it'll just be like, hey, little friendly hello, how you doing, right? Maybe some funny stuff or some weird stuff happening, but in a funny, weird, good way. Like your blenders will go off because I'll be making milkshakes, things like that. You know what I mean? Or you'll just pick up a bunch of EVPs that are just a voice saying eggnog, eggnog. And I promise, as a ghost, I will do my damnedest to not be a whisper voice ghost, even though it's, I can't make any promises because I don't know, because I obviously don't have vocal cords on the astral plane, but I'll do my best not to be a whisper ghost. So when you hear an EVP from me, it's going to be eggnog. It's not going to be eggnog. It's going to be eggnog. It's not going to be eggnog. It's going to be just clear eggnog. Okay, you got that? So eggnog EVPs, blenders going off. Maybe one of my comedy tracks, long ago forgotten, will pop into some kind of musical digital psychic feed you have, where you'll hear like the United Snacks of America, which is an old joke of mine, or some other joke. Or maybe you'll hear the joke that'll be on a future album because I haven't recorded it yet, about me being a ghost and haunting you. Oh my God, is that like hauntception? Are we talking about like inception of haunting here? You'll know I'm haunting you because my joke that'll be on a future album that I haven't recorded yet will start playing somewhere unexpectedly, or it shouldn't, where it shouldn't be, my joke about being a ghost and haunting you will pop up. And that's when you'll know that I'm actually haunting you. Even on the other side, I'm still trying to get Pandora spins. Even after death, I'm trying for that fraction of a penny on Spotify for a track play. That's the way to do it. That's the way I'm going to do it. Well, that's one of the ways I will be haunting people or showing up. I'd love to do full body apparitions as well. If I could I'll probably just show up in like jeans and, a Western style button down or a hoodie. This seems to be my most comfortable garb or attire. Maybe I'll show up as Trip Coltrane. Anyway, beard or no beard, who knows? First half of my life, I never had a beard. And then from about 25 on, I was pretty much been bearded ever since. Beards are very popular now, and I get it. But, I was bearding it a while ago. But we don't have to talk. It's not like they're not banned. It's okay. So, I will eggnog EVP. I will blender turns on. Or your coffee maker could turn on, because I always love coffee. It doesn't matter what time of night it is. Can you tell I'm a little juiced up right now? You probably can, because I was so tired. And I was like, I need to get this episode recorded. And it was like 6 p.m. And I'm like, I am exhausted. I need to go lie down right now. And I'm like, you can't lie down at 6 p.m. You'll wake up at 1:30 in the morning and you'll just be awake. And that's a problem, even for someone who doesn't matter what time they're awake, because I do have work to do this week. So I will make your coffee maker turn on. I'll turn your blender on. I'll eggnog EVP you. Hopefully I will full body apparition. You'll be able to tell because it'll look like a shadow of a sentient piece of broccoli moving around your house. And then you'll look over and you'll see it's actually just me with my hair. And then my joke about how I'm going to haunt people will pop up on some kind of streaming digital play service of some kind in your mind or on a device you have. And you'll hear the joke about me haunting after I'm dead, but I'll be dead and I'll be haunting you with my haunting bit. Okay, I think we got it figured out. So let me know if you want me to do that. I'm not just going to haunt people. I think, a lot of ghosts don't understand what consent means. But that's something. If you want me to haunt you, let me know. It's just going to be eggnogs, milkshakes, coffee, and comedy. That's really all it's going to be. Or maybe the Cincinnati Reds baseball game will pop up on your TV, even though you have no idea what it's doing on your TV. Because I sincerely hope that before I die, they will at least get a playoff game victory, let alone a World Series. Or if the Bengals won the Super Bowl, could you imagine? Could you imagine for the first time in anyone's lifetime that the Bengals won a Super Bowl? But mostly it's going to be milkshakes, coffee, eggnog, and comedy. And then some Reds, and then, some baseball cards, and then some crystals. So if a crystal shows up in a random place, I found a crystal on stage at the Fort Comedy Club in Fort Collins. After our show, we were doing a group photo, and there was a crystal on the ground. I believe it was zebra jasper. Anyway, I gave that stone to my buddy Jeff Tate. He doesn't have crystals, and he messaged me the next day. He's like, ever since you gave me that crystal, everything in my life has gone wrong. So I wanted to message him back. So what you're saying is you believe in crystals now. Just not the way you wanted them to. So anyway, that's how I'll do the haunting. It'll be through crystals, through baseball cards, through Bengals, through Reds, through milkshakes, through coffee, through eggnog EVPs, and through comedy, and through broccoli shadows. Sentient walking broccoli shadows, which will be my full body apparition blocking the light. Okay, I think that's a pretty good grocery list of how I'm going to haunt people. I don't know, maybe Diner Dan shows up too. Maybe just get Diner Dan. Pancakes. And it sounds like Dave Wade, actually. Or maybe Todd shows up. Hey, man, I just wanted to haunt you, man. Okay, Todd, you'll be there. Todd will be there. Me, Todd, Diner Dan. Who was the guy I came up with a couple weeks ago? It had like a 3-part name that was a pun. Who was that guy? It was Guy something. It was something Guy, right? It was. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. But yeah, it's just going to be eggnog EVP. Every time I say that, you get the bit now, right? Yeah, you got the bit like 20 minutes ago. It's like, yeah, Ryan, I got the bit 20 minutes ago. Every time you say it's just going to be that, you add one more on. Then you do the list again, add one more on, give an example, give the list again, add more on, give the example over and over and over and over again. So this is all going to haunt you. So think long and hard if you want this in your life, after my death. I don't know if you want my death in your life after my life, living with my death. You might not. It might be a little much for you because honestly, it's a little much for me right now. So maybe we'll put a bow on it. Let's get out of here. Or do I have more to say? I don't think so. We're not going to go longer than an hour because then I have to throw in extra commercials. I'm just going to give you the one commercial break this time. I'm not going to do that to you. Even though it puts a tiny little bit more change in my pocket. Oh, okay. So just as a reminder, Wiley's Comedy Club this Friday and Saturday, December 22nd, 23rd. 23rd is pretty full, so get tickets for Friday, December 22nd. If you're anywhere near Ohio, guess what? My Christmas gift to you. If you want to come to the Friday show, send me a message. I know, I'll see if I got guest list spots for you. I bet I can make that happen. Yeah, and then we'll see you in the new year. I'm going to Florida in the new year. We're picking up that documentary. We're going to go down there and film for a week. Oh, boy, things are getting interesting. I also have another trip I'll tell you about, hopefully sometime in January. Oh, boy. I'll be in Los Angeles in the middle of the month, out there for some work stuff, but also hoping to see some buds and maybe do some spooky things. It'll be a short trip. I'll be back out in L.A. around the 20th. Anyway, we are rocking and rolling over here, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I'm not going to talk to you until, after that, but before the new year. Anyway, I love you. I hope you love yourself. And remember, death is part of life, and it sucks, but it's just, we know it to be true. And the more pain we feel, the more we've opened ourselves up to the experience that is sharing this life with other people that aren't promised to us for any longer than the moment we have with them. And that's a great reminder to cherish those moments and cherish each other, for we are all gifts to one another. It's just some of us got a little rushed in our rap. Anyway, hope to see you at a live show, and if not, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.